Welcome to the Influential Personal Brand Podcast. This is the place where we help mission-driven messengers just like you learn how to build and monetize your personal brand. My name is Rory Vaden, and I'm the co-founder of Brand Builders Group, a Hall of Fame speaker, and New York Times bestselling author. And this show is to help experts learn how to become more wealthy and well-known. I know you're going to love it. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. If you follow the Brand Builders Group methodology, either as a client or just someone who benefits from our free content, you know that our entire strategy that took us from 0 to 8 figures is give away content for free, teach everything you know for free in bite-sized chunks and small, all random miscellaneous order, and then invite people to request free calls with you, and then offer those people a chance to enroll. And that's how we have become an Inc. 5000 company 2 years in a row, 0 to 8 figures in 5 years, worked with all these amazing celebrity clients. Well, a big part of that conversation is, what do you say on those free calls? So if you do all that right and you drive the free calls, there's an art form to how to manage those free calls, what to say on them, what not to say, how to follow up with those people. And the man that you're about to learn from is somebody who has helped us tremendously in that area. He's actually helped us grow our conversion percentage between 10 to 15% consistently in that one metric ever since we started working together. So originally he was a Brand Builders Group client, and then he became somebody that we recognize his expertise is specifically in the area of sales in human performance, and we hired him. And you're about to meet him, and we're going to talk about some of the things that we did together that he helped us implement that moved our conversion percentage in a very, very positive direction in very, very short order. So his name is Ryan Lang. The company he is a part of is called Empire Partners. He's the co-founder of that company. He has coached lots of people in the area of sales and human performance. So in addition to working with me and AJ and our team at Brand Builders Group, he's worked with Russ Ruffino. He's worked with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the New York Yankees, ConocoPhillips. He has been involved in corporate like divestitures of hundreds of millions of dollars. He also has certifications from Digital Marketer, the Transformational Coaching Academy, and is just one of my favorite guys who actually talks sales and understands the right way to sell and the right way to service people. Ryan Lang, welcome to the show, brother.
Oh man, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Listen, after that introduction, you just set your expectations right above low, and I'll try to rise up to meet them.
Well, man, it's been great working with you, in fact, and it's funny because you know this, and maybe people who are watching know, but like AJ and I, the first company we built was a sales training company. And we have very specific philosophies about how to sell, and people were hiring us to teach them how to close and teach their teams how to sell and get referrals. And then when we built Brand Builders Group in many ways is more of a marketing organization. We drive all warm leads. And so we went from a world where all we did was train our team to make cold calls and outbound sales to driving inbound, where our sales team is pretty much does exclusively free calls with people who already are at least somewhat aware of us. And then we got sloppy with our own sales training and sales conversion, and we hired you, and you moved the needle for us. And our team loves you. And yeah, so we're so grateful to have you. And I think I'd really love to hone in on how to have free calls, what to do
Mm.
on free calls, and all the things around the free call to convert it to a customer. Because this is we're only teaching people to do what we've done, and we're only doing things that work. So tell us first a little bit about, how did you get started doing sales training specifically for like thought leaders and coaches and consultants? Because that's one area that you have a real deep expertise. It's not just sales training, but like sales consulting for personal brands specifically.
Yeah. So I have a very deep background in sales, and really I think I got my first job selling something when I was like 15 years old, like you, very, very, very deep background in sales, and I've sold all kinds of things. From things that are very cheap to literally things, that we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. And when I transitioned, I had I was, co-founder and part of an eight-figure business in the energy industry, and walked away from that partnership after many years. And after I walked away and I decided to get into the coaching space, um, I realized very quickly that I wanted to learn how to do this over the internet. This was around 2015, so there was still a lot of things in terms of selling online and funnels and all of that stuff that were still newish at that time. And I knew that I had to kind of figure that out. Well, I got my butt kicked as a coach for the first 2 years, and I finally went out and hired somebody to help me with both. I thought it was just my marketing. I wasn't even thinking about sales. Once I would get somebody in person,
Mhm.
most of the time I could figure it out. I could close the deal. But I didn't understand how to market, and I hired a group to help me do my marketing. And in that, as part of it, was a sales training. And the interesting thing was, Rory, that I literally did everything that they said and completely ignored the sales training, like 100%. I was like, just give me this funnel stuff. Just give me that. You get somebody on my phone, I'll close the deal. And I had what I've kind of determined is sometimes the kiss of death in sales is that the first high ticket sales call that I got for my coaching business, I closed.
Mhm.
And so now I think I'm Johnny Closer here, and I'm like, oh, I knew it, just get me the leads and I'm going to crush this. And I went over like, I don't like 3, 4 months, and I'm spending money on ads and I've got leads coming in the door and I'm not closing anything. And eventually I got to a point where my financial situation got so bad that I had to kind of slow things down. And so when I did that, I went back to doing some consulting in oil and gas and kind of decided for myself at that point that I was going to not just master sales, that I was going to put away everything I knew and figure out how to master this type of sales specifically. And so I went to work with the training that I had at that time. I did some work, and then eventually I helped a couple of friends with their sales. I knew a lot of coaches, and several of whom were very successful. Were struggling with their sales teams, and I ended up being able to come in the door and close at 40-50%, which is kind of unheard of in some of the types of sales that we think and talk about. And eventually, I ended up working for clients on demand and Russ Ruffino, and my mentor in this type of sale, Mark von Muser. Uh, you know, I basically just said, "Look, I'm going to empty my cup, brother. You fill it up, and I will eat, sleep, and breathe this every day." And I did that for like a year and a half. It was the only. I mean, I literally shut off all content. I didn't listen to anything. I didn't read anything. I just ate, slept, and breathed this all day long. And that was kind of the beginning of what eventually became coaching people on sales.
Mhm. And so these organizations, so like you mentioned Russ Ruffino, right? Like these organizations and this model of driving free calls and selling a high dollar offers,
Yep.
would you say that that model works in terms of growing companies that are really significant in terms of their revenue?
No question. No question. It is, there are a lot of people that believe that a lot of things have to happen before somebody lands on a sales call and or a discovery call, and you then sell them into a high ticket offer. And for those that don't, that aren't familiar with the terminology, we're probably talking about anything north of $3,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
And not only do I believe it's effective, but I've watched it work, and I've worked it through multiple organizations. And my partner Brooke, exactly the same with his work with Tony Robbins and Brian Buffini and John Asriff. That was the model for every single one of them.
Hmm. Um, so let's talk about so where do the free calls come from? So let's start there because I'd love to just kind of like walk through the process. Um, so you mentioned ads, but like walk me through. in these different organizations, including ours, so feel free to like
Mhm.
talk about
Yeah.
what you see, what we do, since you're got, you're behind the curtain here at Brand Builders Group too, of like, where do the leads come from? Where are the best places for leads to come from? Are there certain places that convert better or worse, or are warmer or colder, etc.? And let's just talk about that that component or piece of it.
So there are a couple of different places that the leads can come from when you drive them to a call. So, for example, the Russ Rufino's model was, that he kind of made famous, was Facebook ad to landing page to webinar to call. That was the funnel. That can work. Uh, the main key component there is something that warms the person up, because I need a reason to want to jump on your calendar, right? So in the case of brand builders, you've done an amazing job with getting people warm to your message and what brand builders does through the podcast that you've been on. And so you've been able to drive leads direct to count at brand builders through through podcasts. You basically have the opportunity to rent authority, and then you deliver like crazy, which is awesome. You deliver a ton of value, people get a lot out of it, and they go, holy crap, if this is what I got out of this podcast, what happens if I end up working with this guy and his team? And we can do that through a in your case, it's a podcast that's got fantastic reach. We can also do that through really, really good quality lead magnets. Brand Builders, for example, has got an amazing study on personal branding, which is insanely valuable and very, very compelling information that can drive people to a call. We can also, if for those people that have done a lot of legwork ahead of time and have built up a good following and a good audience, you can also do that, directly through email marketing, where, we deliver a lot of value to somebody for a while, great content on social or via email, and then giving people an opportunity where we kind of describe what it is maybe that they're wanting, or describe what it is their pain points are. And if they'd like to fix it, listen, we'd love to jump on a call and see if it would be a fit for us to work together and help you past your problems to the dream that you really want to get to.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because uh when I sit back and I look at like, okay, here's Russ Ruffino or Tony Robbins or Brian Buffini or like Tom Ferry is one of our friends. Like, the thing that all of these have in common is you initiate attention, then you add a lot of value, then you offer a free call. And whether you initiate that attention on social media or a podcast or an ad or speaking is another place where we drive a lot of leads, right?
Yep.
Anytime
Yep.
I'm out speaking, I speak a lot. So we drive leads from that. Um, or even referrals. But even when people give us referrals, even when a referral comes in, we we give them a lead magnet and we try to make them watch something or do something before they get on, even though they're already warm. It's like we really try to make sure that they consume some of our content before the call, so that if they show up for that call, we know they know who we are, what we do, they trust us, they've gotten value. Sort of the law of reciprocity is
Yep.
set in motion and sort of tipped in our favor because we've already added so much value to people. Um, and that includes this podcast, right? Like, everything we're doing is like, we're just trying to give so much value to people that they go, exactly what you said. If I've learned this much for free, how much would I get if I actually went through this like formal program? So I love that. And you're saying that in general, that those principles kind of apply across the board with the different companies you've seen that have been successful doing this.
No question. Each of them did it in a slightly different way, but there
Mm-hmm.
was always some way to build familiarity. And also, you are a master at really helping people, as really, or just about everybody else that you mentioned, they're masters at helping people understand that there is a mindset shift that they have to make between who they are and where they are now and who they want to be and where they want to go. In some way, shape, or form, there's a mindset shift that has to be made. And that's one of the commonalities that I've really noticed, Rory, is that whether it's a lead magnet or a great webinar or a podcast or a phenomenal speaking engagement, um, the best of the best have the ability to get somebody to think to themselves, "Oh, gosh, that's not what I thought. It's actually different than what I thought. Well, what do I do then? How do I make this happen? If it's not what I thought, then what is it?" And then, if you get the what, then you need to know the how. And that's where your free call comes in. You
Mhm.
can give them the what, and then, the free call is the gateway to the how.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good. I don't even know that I've consciously thought about it that way, but we even teach in our sales training in BBG that sales is all about the gap. It's the gap between
Yes.
where they are and where they want to be, and you got to be able to paint that future and then also help them realize without offending them that like they're not there, and then that gap is basically what they buy is going like, "Oh, if you can help me close that gap." So I love that. So let's say someone requests a free call. What should happen to increase conversions between the moment when someone requests a free call and when they show
Mm.
up for the free call? Like, so now let's just say we got the lead, comes in, the person requests the call. There's a whole window there. What are some of those things that need to happen inside of between that moment and when you're on the phone with the client?
This is such a great question. And one of the reasons why is that most people don't even think about it.
Yeah.
They're just excited, right? They're just excited that somebody landed on their calendar and it's like, oh, great, they're going to get on my phone. But there absolutely are ways to increase conversion. And part of it, in some cases, we've seen a lot of efficacy with like a really good solid application, that almost feels like a bit of a homework assignment for them, prior to the call, where you get to learn a bit about them. They've got to spend a little bit of time digging in on maybe what's not working, what they really want, what they've tried in the past, those kinds of things. That can be very helpful. Most people think that applications are just for the salesperson. Now all of a sudden you know all the things that are going to help you close the deal. It's actually very helpful when you do it right. Very helpful in the context of the potential client, because they've got to spend a moment thinking about like, okay, what isn't working? What do I really want? What is kind of sucking for me right now? So that's one thing. The other thing is making sure that you've got really good, solid, ample notifications. So, that can come through, your calendaring platform like Calendly, or any of the other ones have got very good, notifications. It's through email as well, just letting people know. I mean, I think we take for granted, Rory, that we're not the only busy ones in the world. We get awfully offended when people don't show up to sales calls. And if we haven't taken the time to try to remind them that they've got a sales call, then we don't really have any reason to get offended. So that's one small, simple step. And then lastly, I would say anything that you can send them. You were talking about kind of the resources to get people warmed up, and anything that you can send them that will, help them understand more about, either A, what they're struggling with, the types of solutions that you provide. Client testimonials are phenomenal things to send before people get on a sales call instead of after, which is what most people do. Um, any of that kind of stuff is really good. And I would say that if you can, automation is wonderful. You and I both love automation. But one of the things that I think is a lost art in the world of sales is personalization. We're so quick to automate everything that when you get a prospective client, if you can do what I would, if you can take some steps that I would call, pro moves, you do a little bit of research, find out who they are, look at their application, what industry are they in, what are they struggling with, and then try to send them some things that are curated. Send them one of your podcasts that is going to resonate with them. Send them a client testimonial that's somebody that they would identify with. You're going to be so far ahead by the time they get on, your phone by that point, drastically increasing the chances that you're actually going to get to help them.
Yeah, that's so good. It's such a simple thing you can do, right? And it's like you read their application and you send them a note. Hey, I saw you were struggling with this. Here is one of our free podcasts or one of your vlogs or or a 60-second Instagram reel. Like,
Yep.
here's a link to a reel. You should check this out. Can't wait to talk, more. Like that's really, really good. Um, the next thing I want to ask you about is the free call itself. What is the best way to position this free call? And the reason I ask this question is because nobody wants to show up as a consumer as to a sales call and just sit
Yep.
there and be sold the whole time.
Yep.
But if the company offers it as a free call, then people go, "Oh, I'll just take advantage of this free call," and
Hmm.
they've got no psychological orientation towards making a decision.
Yep.
So how do we strike the balance, and what is that balance between making the call valuable for someone even if they don't buy, not making it a sales pitch but creating conversions, and also making it valuable for the client but not just wasting your team's time? Like, how do you find
Yeah.
that balance in both what it's called and what you do on the call, and like how long are these calls and what percentage of the time is like adding value to the client versus telling them about the program?
Uh, this is so important. And what it starts with is framing, which is one of my favorite subjects in sales in
Mhm.
general. And most people think that framing happens when you get into an engagement, but it actually happens before the engagement ever even starts. So to your point, what a lot of people do is when they offer a free call, they're so concerned that people are going to run from the idea of a sales call or actually talking about doing business together, that they go heavy on the free. And oftentimes in their copy or when they're explaining it in a video, it's free, 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 or worse, they say, come to a free coaching session.
Mhm.
um Bad idea. Because as you mentioned, in that instance, I've now given people the expectation that it's a free coaching session, and you're going to get a lot of looky loos. You're going to get a lot of looky loos and people that are coming on your call saying, "Hey, I want you to fix my whole problem in the next hour." So the first key is making sure that you position this in a way where you set a good frame for what's going to happen. In sales, you and I know that we are always holding slightly different postures in a sales engagement, in any kind of conversation. And that begins with copy or how you're inviting them to the call. So just to give an example, the way that I like to kind of frame this up is I like to say things like, listen, Rory, so we talk a little bit, about a struggle, or hey, if anything that you read in this email resonates with you, I'd love to invite you to a free 45-minute discovery call. Now, on this call, we're going to take some really serious time and deep dive on what's not working for you right now, and also really where you want to go. And if I feel like I'm the right person to help you get there, we'll talk about what that looks like. If not, I promise I'm going to deliver you a ton of value, and it's going to be an incredibly valuable experience for you one way or the other. If that sounds good, book now. There's your copy, by the way. If you're listening to this right now, you can go slap that in your landing page. But
And we call that the pressure-free promise, by the way. Also, in our pressure-free persuasion, we brand a technique called pressure-free promise, which is to say, I'm going to give you a good look at this. I'm going to learn about you. You're going to learn about us. My job isn't to talk you into buying anything. My job is to help us to figure out if we have a match. If we're a good fit, I'll show you how we can work together. If we're not, that's totally okay. And just letting people have permission to say no really makes them comfortable enough to where they might actually say yes. And that's such a simple thing to do that takes pressure off of you as a salesperson and pressure off of them as a prospect. and you can do it in writing, you can do it with your words, you can do it 5 times during the conversation. But that's really important. And I like, that was one of the things that when I think back to your time helping us, when you started like listening to our sales team's calls, is you were like, they're not framing the conversation properly on the front end, that there is the potential that a purchase decision will happen on this call. They're
Yes.
saving it until the very end, and then sort of springing it on someone and dropping in their lap like, so what do you think? Do you want to work together? And it's like,
Yeah.
that's not a good framing. That's like dropping it in their lap at the end, and they're like, I don't know what to do with this. Like, and
Yes.
just the objections come. And I remember you're like, the team is not teeing it up properly on the beginning of the call, saying exactly what you just said. Like, hey, these are the things we're gonna do on this call. It's gonna be valuable for you one way or the other. If we can work together, I'll show you how to do that. If not, that's okay too. But let's have this and see if we can partner with you to get to the next level. That initial framing, and that the first few minutes of the call, and in the copy coming up, in the video going leading into it, is really been key.
That, man, that that it is so important, because what I found at the very beginning, and by the way, this is what I've listened to, literally thousands of sales calls in this type of engagement, and this is what most of them sound like. It's like, somebody shows up and we go through the rigmarole about, hey, how about that weather, man, Denver's really awesome this time of year, kind of thing, and I think I'm building rapport. And then comes the question, and it's something like, well, so tell me what's going on.
Yeah.
And which leads to, vomit, as I like to say. They vomit on you for like the next 10 or 15 minutes. Your call is way off track. And worse yet, we think that we're going to build rapport then as we go along by relating to them. Oh yeah, you know what? I've been there. Oh, I totally get it. And sharing experiences. And to your point, what happens is that we turn it into what I call a bro call. Now all of a sudden, I'm having a coffee chat with a friend, and I get to the end of the coffee chat, and I drop, some kind of 8-figure hammer on that person, and they go, "Whoa, Rory, hold on a second here. I thought we were friends."
Mhm.
I mean, and so the frame, it starts in your marketing, in your copy, and then it has to happen again at the beginning of the call, where you set expectations. Now, one of the other key pieces too is that when you set the proper expectations at the beginning of the call, we talk so much in sales about building trust. And in old school sales, you think that you build trust through ridiculous conversation at the beginning of the call, and it's not so. One of the key ways that we build trust inside of a sales engagement is keeping our promises. And when we set up the call in a certain way, and then we run the call in exactly that way, internally, they're going, oh, he said he was going to do it like this, and that's exactly what he did. This is exactly what they told me it was going to be. That builds trust.
That's so good. And so would you say that to delineate and to differentiate from the like bro call to the like helpful consultative decision making session, is that frame in the beginning? And it's just what you said earlier. It's just like, hey, here's what's going to happen today. We're going to cover these things. And at the end of the call, I'll share with you what it might look like for us to partner together. And if you like it, great. And if not, that's okay too. Is that basically the key to that?
That's the basic idea.
Okay.
That's the basic idea. We take it as, a little bit further by basically also just acknowledging that we may need to dive deep on the call, and asking permission to do so, which is also really key. That's another big problem that happens, is that, we hear a lot like, oh, you got to tell clients the honest truth, and you got to be willing to, call them out on their stuff and all the things. Well, if you haven't asked permission for that, try that out and see how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you need a frame in front of that as well. So that's one little nuance that we kind of add in.
Mm-hmm. And then, what do you cover on the call, and how long should these calls go?
Yeah, great question. So in the call in general, like loosely speaking, the f- we've got kind of our framing process, and then the next piece of the puzzle is discovery, where we're going to start by asking some pointed questions. Every person business offer is slightly different on that front. When we talk about BBG, we'll ask somebody like, hey, tell us a little bit about what's not working in creating your personal brand right now, something like that. um or what's kind of the struggle in your personal brand that brought you to the call. And from there, we go through a discovery process where we ask a whole lot of questions about what's the biggest challenge they're currently facing? How is that impacting them? If that challenge were remedied, what would it look like? What's kind of the dream? How long has it been going on? Et cetera, things like that. What I'm really looking for there is I'm looking to establish duration of the problem. I'm also looking to establish frequency. How often are they thinking about this? Is this something that comes up for them often? Is it a priority for them right now? And also I'm looking for intensity. Where else in their life is this maybe showing up? If they're really struggling with something, is it showing up in their relationships? Are they, is it showing up in their health, et cetera, et cetera? So we go through that discovery process where we really understand more about the human being, the struggle, the dream. And then once we get specifics on that, and I do want to use that word very intentionally, you have such a wonderful saying that, the more specific, the more terrific. And never is that more true than in this part of the call. If you lack specifics in the discovery phase of the call, you will fall short at the end. Um, so we want specifics. And then, from that piece, we kind of go into sharing it if it feels like a fit at that point. And this is a big key. One of the things we're so in alignment, you and I, on our philosophies about selling. And I think we both believe very strongly that in order for us to say yes to helping someone, we have to believe wholeheartedly that we can do that.
Totally.
So the discovery process is not just to learn more about the pain and the dream, but also to understand, can we help this person, and do we want to help this person? Is this the right fit for us? Once we figure that out, we can kind of go through the solution portion of the call. And the solution, that was one of the other keys really in the increase of conversion rate. You have, I've told you this before, and I'm going to say it again on air. Your frameworks are the best. I think they're the best in the world. I think they're better than anybody else's that I've ever known. They're phenomenal. Um, and we have a team of people at Brand Builders on our sales team that knows these programs really well. Several of them have experienced them. And what was happening at the end of those calls at the beginning was that they were sharing the whole shooting match, and it's big. Like the brand builder's journey is huge. So they were sharing a lot and then giving a lot of options at the end. And so that's one of the other big keys, is that once we get to the portion about the solution, we want to be very refined about the way we deliver it. If at all possible, you want to try to take the pieces of your solution or your program that actually apply to the struggles they're having and perfectly match those, and then offer them one option. Even if you have multiple options at the end of the deal, steer them towards one option and leave something as a backup, because as we all know in sales, the confused mind doesn't buy. And that's one of the big keys to finishing the whole thing strong. And ideally, if you can complete one of these calls in 45 minutes, that's rock solid. What we usually like to do is to leave about an hour, so that if somebody has any, what most people would call objections and we call limiting beliefs, at the end of the call, then we've got 15 minutes to torpedo those, and hopefully we can move on within an hour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so good. The one thing to add in there, or to kind of connect what you said earlier, like you talked about permission, where
Mhm.
you said early in the framing, do I have your permission to dig deep and to really get real with you? That's so powerful. there. And then I've also seen where you ask for that same the transition from the discovery portion of the call into the solution is also a permission conversation. It's almost like, as I'm saying this out loud, I've never actually realized this, but just as we're talking, you've got like the framing portion, the discovery portion, and the solution portion. And it seems almost like permission is the transition between each of those. So the first permission is, do I have permission to dig deep, which sets up the stage for discovery. And then asking their permission at the end of discovery, like, if I'm reading you right, it seems like you're very serious about this. Would you be open-minded if I share with you how our program works? Like, do you want to hear how our program works? Do you want to know what it would look like to work together? Like, do I have your permission to share that? Is like, it's a first yes, it's building yes momentum, and it's a really elegant transition and also a psychological powerful moment for them to go, yeah, I do want to at least hear about the program. If they say yes to that, it seems like they're much more likely to, like, they're much further along the buying line.
100%. And it's so true that that really is yet another permission frame. And it's basically to say, we kind of, the way we structure it is we do a little bit of a mini recap where we just kind of say, wow, Rory, all right, it seems like, you're struggling with A, B, and C right now. And really it's affecting you here. And what you really want is to be able to this. Listen, if I could show you a way that would help you remedy those challenges, would it be something that you'd be interested in hearing about right now?
Mm-hmm.
If we think about this just goes back to good human communication. I've now demonstrated, we talk about trust. I've now demonstrated to somebody that I'm present, I'm listening, I've paid well enough attention to really understand the struggle and what they really want. If at all possible, I've given that back to them in their own words, which makes it even more powerful. And then I'm saying, listen, if that's really what it is, if I could show you something that would help you fix that and get where you really want to go, it's not would you buy it. That's a key distinction. As you said, it's not would you buy it or can we do business together? It's can I just share something with you, if I believe it would help you pass these problems. You know, if we're having a good interaction at this point, um, the chances you're going to get a no there are slim to none. It really is a very elegant way, and people feel good about that. They're going, oh my gosh, yeah, wow. I mean, I just had to tell you everything that's sucking. I want out of the suck. How do I get out of that? Yes, please tell me.
It's like they're asking to be shown the program versus just you dropping it on them and asking for a sale.
Right.
Like, having that intermittent yes right there is really important for them, and for
Yep.
you. Because if they say no
Yep.
there, it's like, this is over. Like, conversation's over. Like, if they say no to
Yep. We're
that, they're
done.
not gonna randomly say yes to a sale later. So I think that's really, really cool. The uh inside of Brand Builders Group, we teach some sales training, pressure-free persuasion. We talk about the 9 ways to close. I want to hear some of your philosophies on closing. Before we do that, we only have a couple minutes left. The if you all want to learn more from Ryan, like, I would say, if you have a business, if you've got a business where you've got salespeople doing free calls, and you're like, man, I need some support to come in and just like coach my sales team, work with them, listen to them, or just get, sales training in general. Like, I cannot recommend Ryan enough. Like, there are so few people we trust with this. We know a lot about this space. It takes a lot for us to hire someone to go, yeah, we're philosophically aligned and we believe we've got stuff to learn from this person in this space. And that is Ryan. If you email info@brandbuildersgroup.com and just put Ryan Lang in the subject line, and then just kind of say, hey, we'd love to be connected. We will connect you directly to Ryan because we recommend him as one of our implementation partners, and specifically the implementation partner on this area. Like, if you've got a coaching business, or if you've got free calls coming in selling anything, you got to work together. So check that out. Obviously, inside of our curriculum, we have some sales training. We talk about the 9 different categories of closing questions. I'd love to hear from you, Ryan. Just a couple, like 2 minutes on how to bring the call gracefully to a close, and ask for the business. If you've framed this right, you've gotten permission to go deep, you've done discovery, you've gotten permission to show them a solution, you show them one specific solution option. How do we wrap this up and actually turn this free call into dollars in the bank account and a changed life?
Yes. So I think the very first thing that I want to give someone on this call right now is that before we even dive into the tactical what to say, certainty. Sales is about transference, always. Your energy and how you show up is going to transfer on your sales call. And certainty is of the utmost importance in this part of the call. And so I would say, first things first, you need to make sure that your delivery of your offer is buttoned up, that it is clear and concise, and that you are extremely confident in being able to deliver it. If you haven't practiced it, practice it, do some repetitions, borrow some friends and family, go in the mirror, whatever you got to do, record yourself doing it, and then play it back and listen and go, man, does that feel certain? Does that feel confident? Because that, beyond the words, is the single most important thing at the end of the call. The next thing is make sure that you don't get cute with your pricing. So one of the other ways that we can confuse buyers at the end of the call is we can offer them one thing, and then we can come up with 9 different ways that we're pricing it, or it's $1,237.43. Don't confuse people with the pricing at the end of it. Make it very, very simple for them to say yes. And the last piece that I would say as it relates to kind of, a closing question is, I really like to present people, while my program offering may be the same. I do like, from a pricing standpoint, one of the things that Brooke and I teach is just the same way that you guys do it at Brand Builders, is to have a monthly option and an annual option. If you've got some sort of a subscription, if you have 2 different payment options, I really like that, because I'm not just saying, hey, do you want to buy it? I'm going, so, I'm explaining the solution, and then I'm going to go and Rory, so basically at this point, I'm going to keep this simple. Notice my phrasing and my languaging. Rory, at this point, the only thing left to do is just answer one simple question, and that's basically, which option works best for you? Is it the monthly option, or is it the annual option? And how can I support you? This is something I learned from my mentor that I love. How can I support you in getting to super awesome goal and getting out of, super suck? And that, at the end of it, is really, really powerful, because I've now taken my price, and don't use that word, by the way, use the word investment. We like that word better. But I've now taken my investment and I've linked it to the pain and the dream. We all, those of us that have been in sales for a long time know that price without context is always expensive. And in this case, it's especially true. I don't like to just leave the price out there dangling. Most people will go, okay, so Rory, it's $10,000. And then they just sit there. So give them an option. Hey, Rory, the investment is 10K, and you can either do the pay in full, where you actually save 2 months and you can pay us 8, or if you want to do it monthly, it's 1,000. It's $800 a month, or 900. I can't do the math. 800, 900 a month, whatever it is. So give them
That's a
some
really
options.
important nuance, though, of like,
It
it's
is.
one program option, but
Yep.
2 payment options,
Yep.
so that it's not a yes or no at the end. It's a this or
Exactly.
that. It's a this or that.
Exactly. You nailed it. You
That's
nailed it.
really good. That's really good, man. Well, Ryan, this was a masterclass. Like, literally, when I tell people our podcast is worth, just the content we give away on our podcast is worth millions of dollars, this conversation literally is worth millions of dollars to the person who puts it into practice. We've been the beneficiaries of that. Like, it can at least be tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of a couple years if you just implement the few things on this call. So you've been so generous with that. We're so grateful for you. We proudly recommend you because we formerly were in the world of sales training. We are no longer in the world of sales training. So we push those people enthusiastically over to you specifically in this space. You've been nothing but honest and had integrity and focus, and most of all, service centeredness. Like at the end of the day, we just don't believe in selling things to people that they don't need or it won't really help them. And we don't care how fancy the sales tactics are. If it's not going to help someone, we don't sell it to them. And I know you share that philosophy with us, brother. So what an honor to have you and to work with you. And man, we're just cheering for you. We wish you all the best.
Rory, thank you, and thank you, number one, for having me on the podcast, and also thank you for your trust. It means such a great deal to me that you and AJ have entrusted me to take care of your team, and you are a friend, a colleague, and I'm very grateful for the work that we get to do together, brother.
My pleasure, man.